January 21st. We have a very special guest to the town of Enfield, along with our HR Director, Steve Belinda. We have Mr. Todd Birch from the Connecticut Department of Labor. Welcome. We apologize we were late. Floor is yours, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good evening, Town Council, Town Manager, and Enfield Town residents. My name is Steve Belinda. I am the Director of Human Resources for the Town of Enfield. As you may recall, back on September 24th, when the town manager arranged for Governor Lamont to be the guest speaker at our Economic Development Business Breakfast, amongst the dignitaries in attendance that day was the Connecticut Commissioner of Labor, Kurt Westby. Born from that breakfast symposium, Chris Bromson arranged to meet with the Commissioner of Labor and myself in late October to learn ways that we can partner with the state to help Enfield businesses and residents with career opportunities, job placement, and apprentice training. So without stealing too much thunder, I am pleased to introduce our guest, Todd Birch, who is currently the director of the Connecticut Department of Labor's Office of Apprenticeship Program. Mr. Birch he has experienced apprenticeship from all ends of the spectrum. A product of the apprenticeship program in Connecticut, Mr. Birch attended W.F. Kaynard Technical High School in Waterbury, where he studied heating and welding. He then received a certificate in HVAC from New England Technical Institute in New Britain. Is now a good time to tell you I have an HVAC opening here? Mr. Birch joined the Connecticut Department of Labor in February 2016. Armed with an office of 13 apprenticeship co-workers, his team is dedicated to getting the message out every day about the program's advantages. Mr. Birch brings his message here tonight to elaborate on Connecticut's apprenticeship program with the town of Enfield. So without further ado, I present to you Todd Birch.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening. Again, my name is Todd Birch. Full disclosure, on a personal level, I was an elected councilman in the city of Middletown, so I thank you all for your service and want to give you some information above and beyond normal because I am a peer of yours as well. That being said, thank you for having me today. Enfield is really near and dear to my heart. Manufacturing in the state of Connecticut, let's face it, we've always made things in Connecticut. For a long time, everybody said, well, manufacturing is going away, has been going away for a long time. I beg to differ. Manufacturing has gotten more technologically advanced over the last 25 years than any time in history. We make jet engines, we make helicopters, we make one of the most sophisticated machines in the world, which is a submarine, and we still make the wiffle ball here in Connecticut. So that being said, we make a lot of really neat stuff. We also need a lot of workers. There's no question about it. We have variables all over the place lately that we need anywhere from 4,000 to 13,000 employees right now. You here in this fine town are right in the middle of dead center of what we call Aerospace Alley. There's no question about it. So I came to the Department of Labor 4 years ago from a very varying background. I was a lobbyist. Please don't hold that against me. This is my life story, job creation. I was an apprentice in 4 different occupations. I know what it's all about when it comes down to someone mentoring me to learn a craft. Regardless if it's manufacturing, construction, I now have registered nurse apprenticeship programs, medical coding apprenticeship programs, insurance apprenticeship programs. The word apprenticeship should not be just thought about in construction alone. It is an employer's workforce development tool. If you ask any employer in Enfield, then they'll say, I can't find help. Do they all come to you and ask you that? Yes. I can't find it. Where am I going to find help? Yep. So I took it upon myself, with the blessing of the commissioners and the administration, past and previous, to go into the school systems because I knew about the conversations that need to be had. I was also a former educator. Education always said, well, what are we going to do with a lot of these students? And at the same time, business and employers are going, well, where am I going to find my next workforce? They have a new fancy word for what we used to all call SHOP, by the way. It's called Career Technical Education, plain and simple. You've seen it in your budgetary measures when you're talking to the Board of Education. Career Tech Ed has a new resurgence, there's no question about it. And we have helped design with local communities, not only the community, and by the way, you have, and there's a Nuntuck here, the flagship for manufacturing, no question about it. How do we get more Enfield residents in those seats over there at that fine institution to get promising jobs and stay here in Connecticut? That's what I'm coming here to explain what my program is, but as a challenge to you. How do we say that college preparation and career readiness are equal to and not lesser than? Individuals can go into that, which academia makes me laugh sometimes. They now have a college-bearing certificate program, 10-month program. Has college credits if you wish to pursue after their certificate program, but go to night school later on and get your associate's or bachelor's degree. Go to their wonderful 10-month program, you're going to become a machinist. Again, machinist is just or manufacturing is a sector. There's unbelievable opportunities right now. I'd like to be 19 years old again for a lot of reasons, but mostly for the opportunity that's before us, especially up here. So that being said, I did grow up in the Reagan era where he said, "Hi, I'm from government and I'm here to help you." We really, truly are. I'm here to present a couple of things to you today. Technology is so quick. About a year ago, so I'm talking in the duality. I work within the office, within the Department of Labor, big agency, has the employer services side and the punitive side, which I'm not even going to talk about. They're the ones that find folks. We work on the employer services that find folks for employers. We decided to come up with something called an employer resource card, because everybody says, well, where can these employers find things? Well, if we were to spend the amount of money on the actual book, it's a lot of money. And things change so quickly, especially names and who to contact. I'm going to leave a couple of these with you, but everything will be on the website, and I'm definitely going to leave it with everybody later on. That being said, what is apprenticeship? Again, it's an employer's voluntary training program to bring an individual that wants to come into their employ. It's not only their training program, it's their recruitment tool, and it is actually their succession plan. Because where are we going to actually have the people that are our finest employees transfer those skills to those that are brand new? So back to the educational component. You guys, everybody, and I've been all over the state of Connecticut. I've been talking to superintendents and putting all sorts of programs together, as well as various town councils, city councils. How do we go linear with this for all of the residents of the town or cities that we live in? We spend an unbelievable amount of money educating and do a fine job educating our students, young kids. Get all of them K through 12 system, no question about it. I want to go K to career, plain and simple. And how do we do that? And I say just for manufacturing because I prefaced that, but it can be for all these other different disciplines I'm talking about as well. If you're in career tech ed, and we can't wait till they're in 10th grade, by the way. This has to start in the middle school, have the conversation. STEM education is fantastic. We all know what STEM education is, right? Science, technology, engineering, mathematics is the pinnacle for all these occupations. Yet it does not have an occupational focus, does it? Plain and simple. My job, and I'm fortunate that my job is to bring together wonderful employers to meet the people of academia. The career tech ed people that you have that will be utilizing Perkins funds to actually grow these programs to give the employers within your city the employees they need are starting to have that conversation. Phoenix Manufacturing, Glenn Ford here in this town, has become a very good friend of mine. Right. He's not necessarily a believer. He's the Pied Piper. He goes on and say, this worked great for me. Well, look, it works great for him, might not work for somebody else. The overwhelming majority of people that utilize the apprenticeship program have found its merits because they don't know where to find folks, plain and simple. So we go through these career tech ed programs at the comprehensive high schools, or we have the vocational technical school systems have been doing a wonderful job for a very long time. But now we have the Advanced Manufacturing Center at Nantucket. I think a focus on the individuals that aren't quite sure what they want to do post-high school graduation should really have an outlook and saying this might be an opportunity for that individual. First and foremost, student debt. This is one thing that I'm not proud about Connecticut being #1 in. Harvard Business Journal 2 weeks ago said that the average individual in the state of Connecticut is #1 in the country for college debt at $38,500. That doesn't mean that they received a diploma or that they got a job. They have incurred a debt of $38,500 with no promise, again, of a job or a career. The opportunities of going linear, as I mentioned before, going from comprehensive high school through all the STEM disciplines and having experiential learnings that are afforded through Nantucket and through a lot of our programs to get individuals through career tech ed and work-based learning you might have heard before, to have somebody who's 16, 17 years old, kind of like, well, what is this industry? I might like it, but I don't know what it's all about. Or how many times have you driven by a building here in Enfield and say, what do they do there? They got these big walls and they don't have any windows. They make really cool stuff there. Knock on their door. Really cool stuff. And these manufacturers that are in your city, by far, are the cleanest thing I've ever seen. This old dirty, dingy, oily, you got to be a greasy guy or greasy gal to work in the place, has long since gone away. These are high-tech machines that are computer room clean. It's probably one of the best opportunities going forward for individuals. So we have a lot of different programs. Your constituents, not only your individuals, but the employers in this city has said of its government, not only on a municipal level, but on a state level, help us. Okay. We had created something called the Manufacturing Innovation Fund. There are two components, well, there's quite a few components to it, but the two that the Department of Labor oversees, one is called the Incumbent Worker Training Program, which can help a lot of the local manufacturers upskill their individuals to the next level. There are I'm going to leave some documentation with regard to that, to the bells and whistles of that program. My colleague, unfortunately, had gotten ill over the weekend, and she couldn't even speak today, so I'm kind of speaking on her behalf with regard to that program. A lot of the program and funding opportunities will be in this employer resource card. Again, it's not a thick book to go through. You'd be like, oh, wow, I'd like to find out more about where I could get funding for veterans workforce development or so on and so forth. These are on these cards. The Manufacturing Innovation Fund Apprenticeship Program, it started out with an earmark of $7.8 million. I asked for another $3 million. It has served over 200 employers and almost 800 apprentices at this point in time. I should have been bankrupt the second that I received the money, but I get it. Employers are apprehensive of government. I get that too. But like my good friend Mr. Ford and a lot of other individuals in this town have utilized this program, has offset their wage, they've utilized the wage subsidy component of it. At the time I had 790 what I call slots available. I have 750 utilized. I got about 40 left. So if you know a manufacturer that doesn't know about my program, have them give me a call. It's a shame when I have to beg someone to give them money that they asked for of their government in the first place, but it is what it is. So that being said, this is my website, the Office of Apprenticeship Training, and I'm going through a lot of things quicker, and I'm always available. Look, I'm a state employee. I'm here at night. How many times did you figure you'd find a state employee working here at 6:30 at night? I believe in this because this is my life story. If I wasn't an apprentice and people mentored me, I'm really passionate about my job because I love where I came from, and a lot of people gave me a lot of support to do what I do. I'm just paying it back. So that being said, everybody says, well, we can't find workers, and how do we get these kids to go into school and so on and so forth. I found myself to be a cartographer lately, which I didn't even know the word. I'm a map maker. Because everybody in these circles that I've had conversations said, well, we really need to get this mapped. This is brand new, and I am by no means a computer person, nor really a cartographer for that matter. And I will forward this to you. This is a pathway map of if you're a high school student, if you're somebody that's been out of work for a very long time, someone that wants to enter into the pipeline programs that are prolific throughout the entire state, or someone that actually wasn't a registered apprentice in maybe HVAC and wants to get into manufacturing. This is a really interesting map. I had tried to have people put holes in it, and they're like, well, we think you got to figure it out, but there's a lot there. Again, it's just something I don't really want to go over, but I just want you to understand that there's a map. The most important part about this is I found out about embedding data. So how many students, I don't even want to say students anymore. High school students, or I call it the disenfranchised youth, 18 to 26 years old, I'll even go that far, that might have gone and taken a couple of semesters of college and they're in this debt hole, so to speak. They still don't know what they're doing. So I call them NINIs, not in education, not in employment. They're lost, unfortunately. It's not that we haven't done a great job guiding them. They just don't know these opportunities are out there. And that's why we keep coming to city councils and as much as we can, and anybody we can say, hey, please tell your individuals in this NINI, I call, there's these opportunities, especially as Nantucket, to go get a fantastic, fantastic career opportunity for almost nothing. For those students that are in there, I'm going to be working on a debt ratio. As everybody talks about, how much money can you make? Well, how much money are you going to get in debt to where you got to go? This is the Connecticut Department of Labor's Labor Market Index site. I have a couple of researchers that are unbelievably smart. They got degrees from Harvard and all this other stuff, and I like talking to them because nobody else will. If you ask them a really interesting question, they're going to give you a great answer. We have a student section now. And in this student section, there are all sorts of really, really interesting things you can find out. Occupations in demand in Connecticut, the fastest growing occupations in Connecticut. You hit the word search. Statisticians. I think my guys might have fixed the stats a little bit. But that being said, what's number 3 in the state of Connecticut right now? Computer numerically controlled machine tool programmers, CNC machinists. You have tons of them in demand here in Menfield. Right now, you go to Nantucket, you get your 10-month certificate program, you're on your way. This is a mean, or an analysis. The entry wage is $21.02, not bad for an 18-year-old kid. The 90th percentile, which is tons of them right now, is $48.04 an hour. So the mean is $32.24 an hour with a very minimum certificate, credit-bearing certificate. That's the conversation we beg of you to have with the individuals, and maybe with your Board of Education. You have a wonderful Board of Education here, by the way. Superintendent, all the way down the line. No question about that.
Is this does the guidance counselor, since you mentioned, they have this information?
Funny part about guidance counselors.
Or whoever in the school system that should have this?
We are talking to that. We really, I want to just say over the last year, maybe a little bit more, my work now with education across the board. You know where Orange, Connecticut is?
Yep.
They have a high school system. It's a regional system called Amity High School. You figure, okay, that is nothing more than a factory for colleges. Wrong. I was so wrong. They have one of the best metalworking programs in the state. I didn't know they existed. They didn't know that this data existed.
Right.
So the long story short to your answer is no one knows about this stuff.
Because I met Mr. Ford, and he actually explained the exact same thing to me that you're mentioning. And I know there's career counselors at the high school who have brought some kids over there.
Yep.
And I think they would love, I know they try to connect with the chamber in town.
Yep.
All through that, and I don't know if there's a way we can just simply connect them all together.
Yes, and that's why I'm here today to ask us for our partnership. Again, this is my opinion. I'm here as a guest. I ask to continue our conversation, you as elected officials, with education and keep bolstering the fact that I need help on behalf of the employers, regardless of manufacturing and construction, to say these are viable opportunities. In my opinion, the days of you have to go to college or you're nothing are over.
Agreed.
Days of you have to be trained for a career. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge proponent of higher education because obviously there's tracks for that. And I want you to remember just 3 numbers, 1, 2, and 7. For every job that requires a PhD or higher, there are 2 jobs that are requiring a bachelor's or higher, and 7 that require only certificates. And of those 7, this is what I'm talking about.
Right.
If you get a very, very low debt to get your education, very in-debt debt, wow, that's really interesting, in-debt debt, you can do very well for yourself. There's no question about it. Absolutely no question about it. So with that being said, I've done a lot of talking. I'm here to do some more listening. Again, I would be more than amenable to having conversations further down the line with regarding even more partnership, more conversation. But if I, through the chair.
We chatted a little bit about sending out this to, we have sort of a, I don't want to use a pipeline, but of businesses in town.
We do
through
from
the
our
governor's meeting. Yeah.
One of the benefits as well of this meeting, but also was we had all of the business people that wanted to participate give us their email at the governor's breakfast, and we've been sharing with them press releases, our PAR reports, our weekly, and what we're going to put out tomorrow because they had some illness. I didn't want to do it today. I wasn't sure. I want to make sure they would be present. We're going to put it out as we do. It'll be on the manager's page showing we had this presentation. It'll be all of his information, and also then we're going to send it out to the business community to let them know about it. I will tell you too, and I think it's just appropriate now, not in the manager's report, we've been working closely with the Board of Ed in regard to a multimedia approach from radio radio, collaborating with our ETV. They're going to have a station that's up and running. Mr. Daig is in charge of it. Kasha and our IT people have been meeting. We also brought Jason Neely in. It's a multimedia approach, and what we're going to be doing with these things and what one of our future shows, we want to actually do some podcasts. We want to take some of these presentations, bring the individual and edit them, and put it out at the high school and to his Nantucket on their station. And this would be perfect for the students at Enfield High. We'll make this a priority to share this information because, I mean, it is exciting to know that you can have a career path without becoming indebted for the rest of your life. It can be rewarding. And a lot of people, as he said, there's always a path for higher education. Some people just aren't interested in it. And today, thankfully, especially in our region and in Enfield, we have great manufacturers. There are tremendous amount of jobs, and plus we have, as Nantucket sitting here as well, which is the, a jewel in the state of Connecticut higher education system for this. So, and I think it's important that the governor and this administration has been committed to manufacturing, both with an individual they've named, plus with the monies they've put towards it. I think they understand we got to bring people back. We have to bring people into Connecticut and create jobs, and that's part of what our whole train station is, and housing. It all, it's circular. We need to work on all of these things, and we're so excited. You have the passion. Steve has the passion with our own HR, and that's what you need. People have to see that you really believe in it, and that there's some really great opportunities here, right here in Enfield.
Councilor Bosco, then Councilor Sakala.
Love your passion.
Counselor?
The only problem I see with it is they really should be pushing all trades.
I agree.
I can't find a body man. I can't find a mechanic. I can't find a driver. The days that we used to be able to hire kids and train them, they're not out there.
Yeah.
And it's really sad because the average body man is 57 years old now. And there's no one new coming in, so I love what you guys are doing with the manufacturing, but you got to hit the other trades. Same thing with electricians, and there's no one in trades, and they really need to. You need to sell this to an assembly at the schools. Let these kids know that you don't have debt,
Right.
and when you don't have debt, it takes a long time to pay that debt off. And I got a high school graduation, and I'm doing okay for myself, and. This is what people got to understand, that college is not made for everybody. And the sooner the guidance counselors, like when I was a kid, they'd say, yeah, no, you shouldn't be going to college here. Why don't you look at something else? And all the kids that I were friends with in school, our metal shop teacher used to get them jobs right at Hamilton and Pratt, and they're all doing very well. So I think it's really, you got to start in the schools. Some kids just aren't for college, and they need to be told. They can cry a little bit, but they need to find out the hard facts, and the sooner they can get in and do it, the better they're going to be. So I wish you could expand the program to other trades.
So go right ahead,
Through
sir.
the chair
Yeah.
to Councilman Bosco, I agree with you. I am a licensed steam fitter, plumber. I've got 4 or 5 licenses for the state of Connecticut. I'm from the trades. There's no question about it. I agree with you on that. And that's why we're trying to get together with schools to say, can you please teach these kids how to read it, the increments of an inch? It's not that hard. I've been doing it
Kids
for a
can't
very
read a
long
tape
time.
measure.
It goes down to the exposure of, it's okay to get into these occupations.
All right.
So, thank you.
Councilor Sakala.
I appreciate you coming here and giving this presentation to us. I'm going to sort of piggyback. I would love to see this presentation done to the Board of Education, or done for the Board of Education. Not that we can tell them what to do,
Agreed. You do control the purse strings, though.
but we can't tell them who they're going to listen to on a presentation. I think this is something, and to be honest, I'm not in the trades, but I think it's admirable. Any manufacturing trade, I think they're just very admirable professions. I would love to see this maybe at the same presentation or the same assembly as somebody from colleges. So you can show both avenues that people can go to. Say, all right, this is going to appease some of you. This is going to, this is going to appeal to other people. So I think your presentation, I would love it to be coupled with a presentation from colleges for people for advanced degrees as well. It's my 2 cents if anybody from the Board of Education happens to be here and listening.
Well, he's here. I don't know if he's listening, but I'll reach out to the
So-
superintendent and let them
thank
know.
you. So I think so it's interesting, when we talked about this back in September, this is exactly the point we're trying to do, is we're looking to partner with, we're serious about private-public partnerships in Enfield. We're serious about it. And again, I think you stole my line. I say this all the time because I see it in our industry. I'm in the insurance industry, and we lose young kids all the time going south, going west, going anywhere else but Connecticut. And we struggle even to hire people who understand basic risk.
Yep.
So I'm not asking to expand, but I think to Chris's point, we were talking about this. We do have 2 career counselors at the high school who do a fantastic job, who actually worked with Mr. Ford on bringing the high school kids over to Phoenix. Yep. Again, if anyone hasn't seen what the Phoenix does, what a beautiful, the machines they have there. This isn't, you're right, a machine in oil falling on the ground. This is high-tech laser stuff that, quite frankly, I wouldn't know how to run. And he said the exact same thing that I'm sure he said to you. I'm worried that I want to stay in this state. I don't want to leave. I love the town of Enfield, but I look at my workforce and I don't see the pipeline coming, right? And so this is the point, and I know to the Board of Education, you're welcome. We're all in. We'll help you do whatever you want to do, because I agree with you, the debt, the next generation's got to wake up.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not just statewide. They're inheriting $20 trillion in federal debt. And unfortunately, that's just not going to disappear. And I agree with you. If you can get a job and make a good earning and not have 40 grand already in the hole, you're way ahead of the game.
If I could take 2 seconds
Right
to
ahead.
that point.
Yeah.
My wife is a teacher, special needs teacher, kindergarten teacher. And over the summertime, there were a couple of career counselors. It was a teacher party, so to speak. And here came the career counselor with a look, and I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. She's like, I need to talk to you. Oh, boy. She goes, I heard what you were talking to the other gentleman, and I want you to do me a favor. Don't chastise me, educate me, because I don't know what you do. Because I went from high school to college, then I got my PhD, and now I'm a career counselor. I knew nothing more than academia. So I applaud and openly accept that invitation, to your point, Counselor, as well. I am amenable to having, and I've done this in a couple of towns and cities already, the Board of Education, the council, the chamber, and most specifically the employers, to have not necessarily a workshop, something of value. Right now, I'm partnered with Department of Education, the Board of Regents, and CBIA, and I titled it the Cup of Joe Roadshow. We talk at each other, not to each other anymore. Right now, we're going along the coast because we've been very Hartford-centric the last year and a half, 2 years. I'm going from Stamford all the way to London, hit the whole coast to have these conversations, inviting the workforce development boards, the chambers, elected officials, to have the conversation of opportunity. I'm not here selling something.
Right.
It's just we need to exploit to individuals, regardless of their age. There is an opportunity right now, and it's the only way we're going to grow in the state of Connecticut, to create, first of all, taxpayers through good jobs. And we cannot have economic growth in the state of Connecticut, regardless of what anybody says, unless we can start producing things again. We can't grow because we don't have people. If we don't have people, obviously we can't grow.
Well, it's refreshing hearing from the state of Connecticut. I'm just speaking for myself. So I give you credit, because you're 100% accurate. You're 100% right. And I think you're spot on. It's funny. It's the blocking and tackling of life. And if what you're talking, that's exactly what you're talking about. If we can do that, the other stuff is really easy. in the scheme of things. And so I can just tell you personally, I think that I know the chambers reached out to me. They were excited that you were going to be here. So hopefully, hearing this, when we get the presentation up and the email goes out, they will contact you. So first of all, again, I appreciate the manager and Steve working to bring you here, because this is sort of the continuation of what we started in September. Yeah. Sorry, I'm done talking. Anyone else have any questions or comments? So, sir, any final, Steve or Mr. Birch?
I'll have all this information on hand. If anyone out there needs it, feel free to contact the town manager's office or the director of human resources for the town of Enfield. I'll be more than happy to share this, and I'll help evangelize everything he's been saying here tonight.
Right, we'll send it out to all of our businesses, and also Steve will work with Maya to get all the information to make sure it's there on our town website as well. So Todd, thank you so very much for coming. We appreciate it.
And you're welcome anytime. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get that email to us?
Shameless plug, ctapprenticeship.com.
It's easier when it's town manager Jay Bosco at Enfield.org.
I'll send you the link.
Thank you, gentlemen. So it's 7:10. We have, 7:10, you have 10 minutes. The special meeting is over. You will be back in 10 minutes. Before I call the meeting to order, we have a very special guest. We're going to be a little bit out of order tonight. If I could, I'd like to invite our new Kid Mayor up, Miss Kylie Feliciano. And she is going to start the meeting. Your chair, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. So now, if Councilman Kiner, please can do the prayer. Everyone rise, please.
Almighty God, send down upon this council the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, and that with steadfast purpose, allow us to serve faithfully in our office to promote the well-being of all of our citizens. Through our Lord, amen.
Amen. Folks, hold on. Kylie, if you would, leave the town council, please, in a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done. Okay, ma'am, you can sit down. If everyone would please sit down. And you're going to scoot in a little bit. I don't want, because you got the gavel. All right, remember our line. Go ahead, hit the gavel.
Suzanne, roll call, please.
Councilor Kiner.
Here.
Mayor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Muller.
Here.
Councilor Riley.
Here.
Councilor Srazza.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
Councilor Bosco.
Here.
Councilor Sakala.
Here.
Councilor Himmler.
Here.
11 members are present, none are absent.
If everyone could rise, please.
Thank you, Kylie.
And give Kylie a standing ovation. All right, everyone, we want to take a picture. Come on around, Kylie. Everyone, if everyone would please come
Maybe
around.
she has a joke.
Do you have a joke? You're welcome to say one.
I didn't come prepared.
Good job.
Everyone can come around. Well, we all know she's smarter than me, so I mean that's not a hard one. Come on around.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So this is the Kid Mayor is a great program. This is the third year we've done it. And Kylie Feliciano, if you haven't had a chance to meet her and hear her speak, she is passionate. Right here, she is passionate about gluten-free food, and she's already been successful. If you want, real quick, tell the town what you've already accomplished when it comes to gluten-free food for the school system.
We had on Friday, December 13th, we had a PJs and pancakes for the cancer thing. And they made gluten-free pancakes because there are people who have like celiac disease like me and gluten-free allergies.
Wow, pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, everyone, we'll take a picture with Kylie, our Kid Mayor. Everyone in, come on in. The Queen and her castle, folks.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Don't you go away now. You go back up there. You can go sit down. Congratulations. Good to know. All right. Oh, nice, Carl. Now you gotta squeeze in. Carl doesn't know which way to go.
I don't know which way to go now.
Thank you. Well done. Well done. And thank you for the entire council, our staff, and folks in the audience for indulging. I think this is a really cool program. And again, as we all say, as councilmen, whether we're Democrat or Republicans, we're very proud of our kids. So again, I'm glad for indulging, and I think this is, again, hopefully we can do it every year with our Kid Mayor. Moving on to item 4, fire evacuation announcement. In case of a fire, we do have exit out in the back of the room to our left and right, and to the audience's left and right. We also have to our left, the audience's right, doors that go through the doors. First door to your right, down the stairs and out into the parking lot in case of a fire. Item 5, minutes preceding minutes. Special meeting, January 6, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve? By Councilor Sakala, seconded by, motion by Councilor Sakala, seconded by Councilor Riley. Is there any additions, deletions, or changes? Hearing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed, abstention, 11-0. Moving on to the regular meeting, January 6, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve? So moved. By Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Riley. Excuse me, Councilor Riley. Any additions, deletions? I'll get it. I apologize. Any additions? Do we have one correction?
On page 10, Jacob Nadu is a D, not an R, right? He didn't change, right, Cindy? Okay.
He's allowed to if he's welcome.
can if he
He's
wants
welcome. We have an amendment, motion made, seconded by Councilor Mangini. Any discussion on the amendment or the change of the edit? Any other edits or additions or deletions? For now, on the edit, all those in favor by show of hands. Opposed, abstention, 11 in favor, 0 against. Now on the main motion as edited, any discussion? Hearing none, by show of hands, all those in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 11 in favor, 0 against. And again, we apologize. Snow took away this special guest that we had back in December. Very, very interesting program coming to the town, or actually in the town of Enfield. And I'm going to call, please, Child First and our good friend, Dr. Kalman. Please come up. Welcome, folks.
Thank you.
Just name and title, and the floor is yours.
My name is Jennifer Barrett. I'm the clinical supervisor of the Child First team that covers Enfield, Vernon, Ellington, and all towns in between.
Very cool.
I'm Jerry Kelman.
Is it on red? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay.
Good. Welcome, folks, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make a very quick introduction. As I said, my name is Dr. Gerald Kelman. I'm a retired pediatrician. My practice was here in Enfield. After an Enfield Kite meeting a little over a year ago, I met with the mayor and the head of the Board of Education and the superintendent of schools to discuss a really serious problem. And that problem was the entrance into kindergarten of an alarming number of children who are not emotionally ready to participate in classroom activities. So dysregulated children cannot learn, but just as importantly, they make it nearly impossible for the children around them to learn because they tend to be very, very highly disruptive. So the ad hoc committee that we formed as a result of this meeting was created to address this problem. In addition to the gentleman I just mentioned, this committee consisted of pediatric providers, Enfield Kite, and the Department of Social Services represented by Enfield Youth Services and the Family Resource Centers. Its task was to come up with a number of ways to deal with the crisis, one of which was to work with a nationally renowned infant and young child psychotherapy organization, Child First, to establish a presence here in Enfield. So here to tell you more about this initiative is Jennifer Barrett, a licensed clinical social worker who is in charge of the Enfield Child First office.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Welcome. And I have such a soft voice, so I'm definitely going to have to lean into this a little bit more. I did share with our print for the council today just a brief overview of what the goals of Child First are, and also some statistics. I do not want to waste your time giving a lot of additional information. Numbers do the best talking. We are an intensive, evidence-based intervention that works in the home with 2 generations. So we work with both the child and the caregiver. We work specifically with children under the age of 6 and expectant caregivers as well. So any age range between pre-birth to age 6 is our area of expertise. We build resilience, we heal trauma, and we protect from future adversity. We have Child First is a Connecticut-grown organization. We started at Bridgeport Hospital, and our national program office is here in Trumbull, Connecticut as well. And over the years, we have shown tremendous success in increasing communication domains with children, increasing social emotional intelligence, decreasing parent depression and parental stress, and overall better connections between parent and child. We have seen major effect size in every single outcome, anything from communication skills, social skills, child problem behaviors, caregiver depression, parenting stressors, caregiver PTSD symptoms, and also parent-child relationship, as we discussed. Children that come into Child First are children that have emotional and behavioral problems. They come from multi-challenged and child protective service-involved families. And again, as I mentioned, we specialize in prenatal to age 6. We work with families with multiple children. There doesn't have to be just one child in the home. We are working with both caregiver and child, and we're hoping that what we do with that one caregiver is going to translate across all the other children in the home. We are psychotherapeutic. We're trauma-informed. We have intensive care coordination. So not only do families get a clinician in the home that is trained in an evidence-based practice, child-parent psychotherapy, but they're also provided with a care coordinator who's going to help with basic needs. What parent is able to focus on their child's mental health or their own mental health when they know that they are struggling to put food on the table or maintain the house over their head. We're community-based. We have a wonderful advisory board and collaboration. And I thank Dr. Callanan for welcoming us into Enfield. We have had tremendous success building partnerships with KITE, also with the Enfield Family Centers, our Family Resource Center, and our Enfield Youth and Family Services. What the town has done with Stowe Early Education as well is just phenomenal, and we could not be happier being in this town and helping everyone out that we can. I should also mention one other thing, that because we are 100% grant funded by the State Office of Early Childhood, there is no cost to the town or to the families we serve. And at this time, I open any questions or any
Thank you very much.
comments.
Any questions? Councilor Riley
Yes.
and Councilor Sakala.
So how can a parent or a child come to you? Do they have to be referred through a physician, or can they just pick up the phone and call like 211?
Excellent question. So we are offered services through the village. We're one of many Child First providers in the state. We take referrals from anyone and everywhere. So self-referrals, referrals from pediatricians. Recently, Dr. Callanan helped us making a connection and giving a brief presentation to a lot of the pediatricians in the community as well. And the pediatricians have since reached out and sent us many families needing the assistance. DCF also, I've had parents self-refer as well, just reaching out and calling. Daycares, preschools, we're doing the best we can to get our name out into the town so we could reach those children and families that need it the most.
Could I just add to that?
Absolutely, Dr. Callanan.
So that was a really excellent question. This whole initiative started because I think the consensus was me, the mayor, the head of the Board of Education, superintendent of schools. I think we all came to the realization that if you wait for these kids to hit kindergarten, you've already waited way too long. And we have to identify these children very, very early on. The sooner they're identified, the greater the likelihood of success. So who is in the best position to identify these children? Well, it's the pediatricians, because they see these children from infancy all the way up. They see them on a regular basis over an extended period of time, during which time, hopefully, they develop a trusting relationship with the family. So they're ideally positioned to identify these children through screening. The major objection that the pediatricians had about screening was, we're not going to screen anybody unless we know what we can do with the results. So if we find a family that's in trouble and we can't offer them help, we're doing more harm than good. And that's really what was behind this drive to get Child First. Now the pediatricians have somebody to refer to. So the challenge for us is to convince the pediatrician that now they have to start screening routinely all children. So that's our next project, really get them to start screening.
Awesome. And then the second part of that question is, do you have a maximum capacity that you can serve?
Another excellent question. So right now we have 2 teams that are up and running with the funding we've received. We have a capacity of anywhere from 24 to 26 families we can serve. Currently, we have served, since our start in July in Enfield, 24 families. We have a very small wait list right now, and we anticipate having some new families join us within the next few weeks. Typically, families are with us anywhere from about 6 months to a year, depending on their needs.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All set?
Yep.
Counselor Sakala, then Counselor Kiner.
Mine's more a comment. I know that trauma-based therapy is very important and not very common, and good trauma-based therapists are much more difficult to come by. So I love the fact that that is part of what you're doing, because that is a need that certain families have that kids don't get, and some really, really need it. So that is my comment. I love that. Get more trauma-based therapists if you can.
We hope to. We really do hope. This community has just opened us with welcome arms. We definitely see a need, and we have had families that are very happy so far with services provided, and we are seeing a change. Our goal in the future is, of course, to show that there is the need and to expand over time. Fingers crossed.
Dr. Callen, welcome.
Mangini. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
As you well know, we have 3 children. You were our pediatrician for all 3 kids, and they're healthy, they're doing well, so thank you very much for that. The question to you, Dr. Callen, is what exactly would the pediatricians be looking for during the screening process that would necessitate your referral to Family First?
There are a number of validated screens that are used to identify social and emotional problems. So they are focused on disruptive behavior, so-called externalizing behavior, and mood dysregulation or internalizing problems, depression, anxiety. You know, we tend to think, well, young kids don't suffer from anxiety and depression. Yes, they do. But it shows up much, much differently than for older children. So attention issues, disruptive behavior, any evidence from the behavior of anxiety or depression. Primarily the things we're looking for. There are also screens that can be used to look for trauma. So some pediatricians may not want to use the screens so much to identify social emotional problems. They may want instead to focus on trauma. And I think either type of screening approach would be appropriate.
When you're dealing with trauma, this isn't a mandated reporter sort of concept, is it?
No.
Okay.
It is if there's evidence of, if the pediatrician discovers evidence of abuse or neglect, then he's obliged to report.
Thank you.
Set. Counselor Mangini, then Counselor Ungaro.
Thank you. Thank you for both coming, and thank you for your hard work. I think this is an excellent program. Growth. How will you handle the growth of your program? Because hopefully, and that would be a great thing. Question part A. Part B, how do you plan to get information about this wonderful program into more of the pediatricians? And again, obviously you want to grow, and you're going to have to address that. But how do you advertise this?
I'll take this one. Another excellent question. We're always looking for funding. We are 100% grant funded at this point. And I know there are funding opportunities throughout the state that we will be applying for to expand teams as needed and as that need arises. Right now, as I said, we are at full capacity. We do have a small wait list, but I'm anticipating that wait list will grow over time. So it is our goal as the village and agency to continue to apply for funding so we can support the needs out here. The more that we can show a need is needed, the more that we could advocate for going into the community and expanding teams. Thank you.
All set. Counselor Ungaro.
Hi.
Once a child is identified, how cooperative are the parents in responding and doing the right thing?
Very good question. So again, what typically happens is a referral will come to my attention. Within 24 to 48 hours, I'm calling that referral source to get any additional information to confirm that I have in fact received the referral. In order for a referral to be made, the referent needs to have verbal or written permission from the parent, and it needs to be documented. Within that 24 to 48 hours, not only am I contacting the referent, I'm also contacting that parent to let them know I have received a referral from said referent, and I give them a little bit of background information about our program, about the care coordination, about any mental health concerns, behavioral concerns that we can assist the family with. 9 times out of 10, I would say in the 4 years I've been involved with Child First, I've had maybe 1 or 2 families say this may not be the right time for me, and then kind of step away but call back in a few months when things come up. We tend to go a little bit slower than most programs because we really are relationship built. We really want to establish a good rapport and trust and really work with the family where they're at. So we don't necessarily come in with an agenda or, you will do this, you will do that. We work with families and really to build their own reflective capacity as to what it is their child needs, what they need, and just ways that we can kind of get them to work together.
Could I just add?
Absolutely.
From the standpoint of the pediatrician, there's no way we can compel a family to go. And so there may be those occasions where the family says, we don't have a problem, thank you very much. And that's when patience is called upon, when you can't press the issue as a pediatrician, but you can let the family know that you're available if they want to discuss it further. And you always have the opportunity of another well-child visit or even a sick visit to gently bring the subject back up again. And if you just keep working quietly, not too forcefully, but persistently, lots of times you can bring the family around. You'd also mentioned, how do you get the word out? We're working primarily with the pediatricians. We had a big dinner, to introduce them to Child First among a number of other initiatives, and nothing that brings in pediatricians more than a good meal. So we brought them to the Nutmeg, and Child First made a presentation there. All the pediatric practices were present but one, and that practice we went to visit after the dinner and sat down and discussed Child First with them there. So they're all well aware of it. The challenge is going to be to keep reminding them again and again, because otherwise they may forget. So Enfield Kite has been working very, very proactively with us to stay in constant contact with the pediatricians, and we're hoping once they see the value of this, it's not going to take very long before they start sending plenty of referrals.
One more question. What do you attribute this influx to, as opposed to 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Why now? Is there something going on that's we have so many children with this issue?
Do you want to handle that?
That's a big question. And as much as I want to say that I have,
Be honest.
as much as I want to say that
This is why
I
we want to have-
have
right, yeah.
an answer, I don't think it's that simple. If it was that simple, someone much smarter than I am would have fixed it years and years and years ago. I think there are a lot of different factors. I think that overall we are finding that there's very little safe, secure housing for families out in the communities that we serve. There are families that we have that we're currently serving that are on the verge of homelessness because they can't afford, because one little incident may have set them back. We're seeing community violence in certain areas. We're seeing domestic violence. There's a lot of things that our children are seeing nowadays that maybe they were not exposed to previously. So to say there is one answer, I wish it was that simple, but every single family is different, and every circumstance is different.
I've asked myself that question a million times. I don't have the answer either. The only thing I can really think that comes closest to answering your question is this issue of resilience. I mean, children ever since the dawn of history, have experienced trauma, awful trauma. And yet, for some reason or another, we seem to be the first generation that's really are suffering the consequences of childhood trauma. And I think maybe part of the answer may be resilience, that kids in the past, as traumatized as they were, could bounce back. And I think the reason for that is they got their resilience from the family unit. And my suspicion is one of the contributing factors may be the disintegration of the nuclear and the extended family for a whole variety of reasons. And that has left these children unprotected. And so I think that's just my theory. I'm sure it's not the only answer, but I think it's one.
Appreciate, exactly why we started this, is the honesty that we have to have as a community to handle this stuff, right? We can't be afraid of it. It's going on. That's the whole point of this. And, if you have a presentation, could you please email it to our manager so he can put it on his website? So that's one way we're going to help you get it out there. A. B, the chairman of the Board of Ed should be having you folks before them very shortly. Okay, I'm sorry, they should be before the Board of Ed as well. All right, because this is obviously, and to Dr. Collins being very, again, humble here, him and the pediatricians, reached out and said, listen, that we can tell the schools that the child has a peanut allergy, but we can't tell the schools that that child may have been exposed to drugs or whatever it may be. And so then when that child goes into kindergarten, maybe it's that child unfortunately has maybe a little behavioral issue or whatever it may be, and then we start losing that child already. It can't happen. It just cannot happen. And I know, Dr. Cowan, who again is very humble, has been the leader of all this with all the other pediatricians. And it's funny, when we were talking with him and how we're getting to this point and why this needs to grow, is they were worried that, if they took a stand, that they weren't going to have support in the community that will go along with them, right? And it's sad that that's the first thing someone thinks about when you're trying to say, hey, we got to address this issue, right? So I can tell you right now, me personally, you have that support. Bottom line is we cannot let the next generation flow through and just say, well, we think we know what the problem is. We may know what the problem is. We don't want to talk about what the problem is. Yet 20 years down the road, we still have the problem. And it's 100 times worse. So, and I think we also have, as you know, we have the commitment in Enfield is we have a mental health committee in town that was formed by this council over a year and a half ago that meets on a quarterly basis, that takes all these things seriously. That should be another avenue, Dr. Cowan, if she's not already involved. That's one to get it out there. Because again, we're very serious about handling this. We're not afraid to talk about it. I can say, I'm just speaking for myself. Personally, I'm not, because we just can't keep saying, well, we know what the issue is, but no one wants to talk about it, right? But here we are a year later, we ask why we have all these issues. And so, first of all, thank you for coming, because I know how hard you've worked, and again, I think that's what people don't realize is that the pediatricians really have stepped up. And and I think because they see this, they see it more than anybody. And if a parent, I get it, as a parent, you don't want to admit sometimes, right? You want to hope they grow out of it, right? Sometimes they don't. So, it's just more of a general statement, but I also know I want people to understand, as a retired pediatrician, how hard you're working this issue. I know you have, and and all the pediatricians. So I know they also have stepped up as well. So again, it goes to what we've talked about earlier about private-public partnerships, how important they are, and again, as you mentioned, families into homelessness. Well, we have a grant through a program where we're administering a program to help prevent families to go into homelessness. We're already ahead of the game for that. So these things where you can connect already by just talking to our social services folks, where we can help you and vice versa, help the people who need it. Right. So I'll stop talking about Councilor Sferrazza.
Just real quickly, thank you for coming. Dr. Callan, you raised my son. Thank you. He did a good job. But just real quickly, one thing the doctor talked about is the sooner you pick up on it, the better. And I know pediatricians are well positioned because they see the kids on a regular basis, but there's a group of people that are involved in trauma daily, and that's our police officers. So when they respond to domestic violence and you see the kids cowering under a table, your heart breaks because you know what that does to them. They're not going to be able to go to school because they're afraid daddy's going to, or mommy, whatever. Do you have any relationship with our local PD?
I am actually very happy that you brought that up. What we do have, we realized that we were getting a lot of calls for trauma that would happen within a very short period of time. The village has actually started what they have called their rapid response program. They've been in contact with police departments and fire departments throughout Hartford County and surrounding towns. And basically any child that has been a victim of a crime, whether witnessed a crime, themselves been victimized directly or just indirectly by seeing, we have counselors and teams that can go out to the home within 24 hours to start treatment and service.
Does our police department know?
We have reached out to several towns. I cannot speak for that program specifically to see if they have reached out to Enfield Police, but I'm happy to reach out to our coordinator for rapid response to make sure that they do reach out.
Okay, I'm pretty sure our department would be interested in that. And just a suggestion, if you want to hit the regional 26 towns, the Connecticut Chiefs of Police Association meets once a month at the retreat up in West Hartford. So you might want to talk to the president and do a presentation to the 26 chiefs. I think that'd be great.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time? Once a
Connecticut
month?
Chiefs of Police Association.
Okay.
And this is the Hartford chapter. It takes in the 26 towns in Metro Hartford. They meet once a month in West Hartford at St. Joseph's. I guess it's a retreat home, and all the chiefs are there every month. So.
Perfect. And that is actually how some of our families get to Child First, too, is they first are seen through rapid response,
Right.
and then they come to us that way, unfortunately, as well.
Thank you.
Councilman Mueller.
Thank you for the presentation. It's excellent. I had a quick question. As they reach 6 and they still need help, do you pass them on to another team, or do you continue till 7 or 8 or 9?
So typically we will enroll a child into services as long as it is not their 6th birthday. I have consented someone in 24 hours before their 6th birthday. If that's the case, we will stay with that family for, typically it's about 6 months, as I mentioned. If they reach a certain age, 6.5, 7, at that point we will refer the family to appropriate services to continue work and treatment. And we actually try to make it as much of a warm handoff as possible. Making sure that we can maybe even meet and have a talk with the new clinicians, a new team versus the current team to say, we're going to be moving over your treatment to this team, and it's almost like a ceremonial handing over of the toys that we use. Yep.
Anyone else have any questions? Anything else, sir?
I don't think so. Thank you for your time. Deeply appreciate it.
Well, like I said, if you could get your presentation to the town manager, please, so we can put it on the website. And we could chat, and maybe when in 6 months, if you have some data, I think it would be very interesting to go over some of the things you're seeing, maybe some of the outcomes. So again, we can kind of then tie it back to, so this is what we're doing, right? Because I think it's very important. We're not going to just have you once and we don't see you again. Our goal is to have you back within 6 months with some data. We can talk about some of the outcomes. And hopefully you know that we're committed to addressing this issue in town of Enfield.
Wonderful.
You know,
Thank you so much.
We welcome you to the town, and hopefully your stay here is a good one.
I hope so too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, folks. Thank you for coming. Moving on to item 7, public communications. It is 7:34, so we have an hour. Anyone would like to speak for the council? Mr. Young.
I'll just give out one hand up.
Welcome, sir. Name and address. Your floor is yours.
George Young, 8 Holly Lane, Enfield, Connecticut. Good evening. That last speaker was excellent. I wish they had that program when I was a young child going to kindergarten. I might not have got suspended, but anyway, that's another story.
Might not have become an accountant either.
That could have happened. Well, it was great that the town promoted and the council approved Ken Boulay at the last meeting for his 40 years of faithful service to the town and his love of Enfield. It was more encouraging that the town has promoted from within. This is a great recognition of a long-serving and dedicated employee. There are many good employees that serve Enfield and need to be retained by the town. This can be done by continuing education for jobs in each field. It is not enough to ask people to just continue to do the job because they're doing a good job at what they're doing. The supervisors should be training their replacements so they can also move up. In this day of robots and artificial intelligence, what is the town doing to keep up with technology to educate the employees? If we are not doing it, then they may leave because others are spending money to improve employee performance. I have seen the budget for the last 3 years, and there is what I call the 43207 Club. What is that, you ask? It is too many people getting the same pay for the last 3 years without a raise, scattered amongst a number of departments. You might want to look at that. Are we not helping these individuals to get ahead and perform better? At the last meeting, after the continuous discussion of adult daycare closing by the town council, we are now hearing that the seniors should have someone that would be called a geriatric care manager that can direct them to resources available for seniors. Does that mean we hire another $50,000 plus employee? I would hope not. There's no reason to hire a new person when the social services department should be training one of their own people to do that task. For example, the assessors department could inform the social services department what guidelines there are for seniors and the property tax credit that they would possibly be entitled to. I would then ask the social services department to help them, not direct them, to the right resources. You are not using funds from the adult daycare, you are diverting them. As of March 31st, 2020, there is no adult daycare, so there should be no further spending. Take the responsibility for closing the area, and let's not try to reduce the impact of that decision by tying what you did do to the adult daycare by hiring another person. Let's be proactive to assist seniors that need the tools to continue to live affordably in their home. It will require some education, but that goes along with what I previously noted. All problems and new opportunities are not solved with more employees. Many of these can be solved with proper training of existing people. In a follow-up to the January 6th meeting, it was mentioned that we do not need a second scale at the transfer station, and we do not need to spend $565,000 for this upgrade. I would like to follow up on that tonight. Incidentally, the budget for the new scale and to move and service the existing scale was $91,000. At this point, why do we need an automatic gate system for $20,000? This is a cost center, and there should have been some justification of the revenue that they currently bring in and how these improvements could generate more revenue to offset these costs. What is the revenue of the transfer station as it is today? There is no mention of that in the report by the Facilities Committee. Why would it cost $37,000 for design and engineering when you are using the 2014 design, which I presume was previously paid for? Would you still need $165,000 for site work, concrete, and paving if you brought in a double-wide trailer and outfitted it accordingly? I don't know if this project is already going forward based on the timetable that the report has, but there should be some consideration to what I have previously mentioned. The employees definitely deserve better than they have now, but I believe
30 seconds.
It can be done for much less. Has anyone asked the employees for their input? It would be great to hear their suggestions. If it has been done, there has been no mention of it that I'm aware of. The PAR report's pretty great this month. There's so much in it. I would only comment on one item on page 15 where it says the tax collection. Do you have until February 1st to pay the bills before interest? Well, that's probably not true. The 1st is a Saturday. You really have until February 3rd, which is Monday, and I think that's on the bills. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak for the council at this time? Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Hearing none, I declare public communications closed. Moving on to item 8, councilor communications. Any councilor like? Councilor Mangini, then Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Thank you. One announcement, the Rotary, Enfield Rotary, will be having our wine tasting, and I know Lori Ungeyer is on the committee, and we have tickets. It's going to be on February 6th at 6 o'clock at Nantucket. And again, proceeds from our fundraising events will benefit student scholarships. So the money goes to a good cause. So if anybody's, interested in a fun night, wonderful beverages and food, see, Lori or me, or go online. And the other thing I do want to bring forward here, I'm very disturbed about the Enfield Safe Harbor Warming Center. And I want to first thank our Social Services Director, Cynthia, for reaching out to Monica Wright about the situation. For those who are not aware, the Warming Center benefits people from our community. These are clients of the Enfield Food Shelf, the Loaves and Fishes, and the volunteers for the Warming Center spend 20 hours staying awake per week to assist, with the program. And there's a lot of dedication to that whole facility, to the group. And I'm very disappointed in the response that apparently Monica received when she and Cynthia reached, some conversation that the Warming Center is not eligible to receive any funding because the money goes into a pot and it's already dispersed out, I guess, between the Loaves and Fishes and or the Food Shelf, which I don't quite understand the whole concept of that. But I'm bringing this forward because we've got budget coming, and I'm going to fight to see how successful we are as a council in allocating some funding for this group. Again, they're not really looking for a whole lot, of money because they've been in operation, they've been open for a while, but $2,000 maybe, and quite frankly, that should not break our bank. So I'm going to bring that forward now because I don't hold any secrets back. And, with me, it's what you see is what you get. And this is something that's very, disturbing at this point, especially in the winter and the cold. And we're going to probably get, a little bit more cold as we go through the season. So thank you for listening.
Deputy Mayor Suzak, then Councilor Sferrazza.
Okay. First of all, Kelly and Lori and I had a great time going over and visiting Odin's Keep and seeing the axe throwing, and I can't wait to give it a whirl myself. I don't know about you girls, but it looked looked like fun, and there was a good crowd there, and has started supporting some of our local businesses that have come here. I guess there's one thing that people who aren't in the construction business don't understand, and that is when you see a feasibility study and you see, schematic design, those aren't contract documents. And you can't go for building permits without contract documents, and you need to finish the plan. It needs to be sealed by a professional engineer. So that's always a problem we have when we go to referendum, when we show anything, that this is not the final design. So that's why there's always costs associated with that. Also, through the mayor to the town manager, when are we going to have our next WPCA meeting? Because we're going to have to set rates, right? And are we going to need to resurrect that subcommittee and bring them on in? Okay, so we should put that on our calendar. And also, I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules and move items D1, D2, E, F, G, H, I, and J to miscellaneous and proceed to vote.
Motion made to suspend the rules, seconded by Councilor Muller. Any discussion on suspending the rules and moving to miscellaneous for vote? Hearing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed, abstentions, 11 and 0. 11 in favor, 0 against. Councilor Sferrazza, then Councilor Bosco. I'm sorry, you're all set? Yeah, go ahead.
So this is really just a comment. It's really not a question or anything, but the past few council meetings, I've always spoken about apprehension I have on the state side with their budget. Last month, it was $20 million in the deficit. And I worry about that because a few years ago when their deficit was so great, they came after our town, and this town council had to find a way without sending supplemental tax bills to make it work. I have no information that's going to happen again, but I've been saying I'm concerned about when I see a $100 billion deficit in the state pension plan. And today, just before I came to the council meeting, I learned that they've revised the state deficit budget. It went from 20 million, now we're up to 60 million. What is it going to be by the time we're going to get the numbers? So with that in mind, whatever we vote on in terms of spending dollars, it's so important because our people are overtaxed as it is. And when municipal aid gets cut, they go after the towns that were thrifty and did the right thing. And I just, I saw that today. It said 20 million to 60 million, and it's only January. Where are we going to be in a few months? So just a comment.
Thank you. Councilor Bosco.
Yeah, through the mayor to the town manager, when am I going to see some documents about the trash? And how can you check up on me for the trash ordinance? I mean, it's been a while, and I'd like to. We wrote a trash ordinance, a new trash ordinance, and it went to the attorney's office, and supposedly it was supposed to be pretty much taken care of.
Right, well, then you should be doing it through me to the town attorney, because basically we haven't had the involvement. I know you've done that, and there's a new town attorney. He may not be prepared this evening. I know Maria commented the last couple times, but it isn't in my office. We're separate and apart from it. So I'll defer to him if he has an answer tonight, or perhaps between now and then.
And if not, I guess, I want to try to get this thing moved on and get a DPW meeting so we could address it.
All right.
Is that Councilor Himmler? And then Councilor Riley.
Yeah, Odin's Keep Axe House, that was a really, really cool place. I'm definitely going to go there. What I really liked about them as business people is that they went around to all the local businesses, all the restaurants, and they carry all their menus. So they encourage people to pick up food on the way there or have it delivered right there. So I love that they're partnering and helping each other. Another thing I wanted to announce is the Opera House Players. This is a fun night out. They've got another show coming up. It's February 7th through the 23rd, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And it's an inexpensive, fun night out. Legally Blonde. It's a comedy. I can't wait. So it's going to be exciting. Tickets are on sale. It's operahouseplayers.org. And I hope that everybody would support them. Thank you.
Councilor Riley.
Okay, I just want to thank Mr. Young for giving me the paper. It's easier for me to follow along, or I'm writing frantically. But there were a couple things I think that I can answer on this. He said, would you still need $165,000 for site work, concrete, and paving if you brought in a double-wide trailer? That site work, I believe, also includes bringing water up to the station for bathrooms and safety. I think that's what it includes, and that's an expensive.
It's enough water for fire protection.
Right, for fire protection. So that's a large expense in itself. We're still working on the scale issue. We still have questions. We haven't moved forward on anything with the project, so that would have to come through council anyways. And then Donna already answered the design and engineering. And I guess I will look in to see what is the revenue of the transfer station, and then maybe I can find an answer for you. But thank you.
Councilor Muller.
I had just two announcements. On Saturday, February 1st, a family pancake breakfast at Enfield High School cafeteria to raise funds for the 20th annual Jack-O-Lantern Festival from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Buzz Robotics will also be hosting a pasta supper on Wednesday, March 4th to assist in raising funds for the team to travel to competitions, including Detroit, Michigan, for the World Championship event held April 29th through May 2nd. And the pasta dinner is at St. Bernard's. Thank you.
Councilor Ungar.
I want to remind people of First Readers, they're having their trivia contest. So get your teams together. I have the winning team this year. And I love the competition, so it's February 22nd, and it starts at 6 o'clock, and it's 107? 7 doors open at 6:30. 6? Okay. Also, it's $130 for a table or $15 a person. So So come early, get a good table, because it really packs out. But I got the winning team.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Thank you, Charlotte, for mentioning that. You know, the transfer station upgrades have nothing to do with the revenue that the transfer station brings in. It's really a working condition environment, and I would not want to see it equated to that, although I think we need to charge a little more there.
Anyone else? Just three quick things. Councilor Sakala and I are part of the Loan Review Committee. We just want people in town who are first-time homeowners. There is a great program you may qualify for. Please go to our website. Programs out there. Take advantage of possibly being assisted for our new home, all the new residents that are coming to the town. There's a program you can take advantage of, first-time homeowners program. Again, I know we have $100,000 to lend, and I don't think we're even close to coming close to that. Because if we actually lend $100,000, we'll be able to maybe qualify for more money in the future, which is the goal. Real quick, I'll go. I know there's a lot of hockey teams doing well. The girls and boys basketball team are doing well. If you want to go see some good sports with very, very reasonable costs, go to the high school. There's 2 or 3 games a week. Both boys and girls, both are playing well. And there's been some really tough games out there. So again, save yourself a little money, go support our local teams. Last thing, I just want to congratulate Coach Cassio, 33 years coaching the Enfield Ramblers football team in various roles, but doing the D team, which, if you know, those are very, very young boys. So he deserves a very round of credit when you're trying to teach kids just even how to line up on a football game with your helmet, and that's probably 2 sizes too big. So again, 33 years, well done, and congratulate him on his 33 years of service to our youth. Moving on, Town Manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did issue this month's PAR report, and I would like to acknowledge that we had asked all staff in CASA, since she's come on board, we rebooted it, we streamlined it, we had everybody go back from the beginning instead of just adding on. We wanted to make sure it was fresh content and updating important things. So I think we appreciate Mr. Young's noticing the amount of information, but it's good and new information. It's just not a regurgitation from month to month, and that's why we went to once a month and really had people focus on putting pertinent information in there. And boy, if Mr. Young only found one error, they're doing a heck of a good job. So we appreciate that. If you have any questions on that, on anything in the PAR, we can answer it. In regard to Councilor Mangini's interest in the homeless shelter, I will just make known that last year we streamlined the process, and that if you go to the social services website, we have an application and enrollment for nonprofits such as the one she mentioned. I think they actually came last year and made a presentation. My memory serves, but it's up to the council then to fund it. But if you're a 501c, you're a nonprofit, and you qualify, you can apply under that grant application to the council for $1,000 to $15,000, and we do give various ones out, and they, I think, would be eligible, but they have to go on to the site and they have to enroll by February 3rd, so you could pass that on to them. Then it will come before the council during the presentation and the budget, as we did last year. It's interesting, we get inquiries, and depending on the staff level of their work, we get the answers back out. But one that jumped out to me last time that Mr. Young brought to our attention, and it wasn't in the finance area, but it was interesting to me because it was questioning the Water Pollution Control Center and a jump in the use there of, I think he said, some 34%. So I did ask Mr. Nunes, who was able to look at it. We're going to post it on the website. I won't take a lot of time, but it was a fascinating answer. And basically, the flows recorded in FY 2019 were higher, and it's due to what they call higher moisture content. And this is due to snow melt and rain, and this is caused by a condition known as inflow and infiltration. This is interesting because it's water that enters the sanitary sewer system through places like homeowners' downspouts, illegal sump pump connections, separations and cracks in the sewer pipes, open clean cuts, holes in manhole covers, leaking manholes and foundations, etc. But basically last year we saw, according to his statistics, that we had an increase in precipitation from 18 to 19 of 34.47%. So it leaks in, it infiltrates into the system, and that accounted for the higher usage. So I'll put this on our website, and there's a really cool graph showing the leaks. So it just shows that we've got to be vigilant, that you've got to maintain your infrastructure too, because it's the leaks and it's aging pipes and other drains and manhole covers that allow this stuff to get in there, and then we're paying a price at the Water Pollution Control Center for it to have to go through. And I would say, interestingly enough, we won't address everything, but we do look at our budget, and this is in regard, and most things we like to do in writing and not take the time, but I think it's important to note in regard to the position of the geriatric assistant under adult daycare. You know, in last year's budget, we do scrutinize. We eliminated 2 full-time positions with benefits that paid well over $50,000 because in looking at the budget, we decided the money, one, the jobs were no longer necessary. So we do look, we just don't keep on doing the same thing without looking at it. We redistributed some of that money more appropriately in some cases. And I will just state with the adult daycare position, we're looking at it. We do understand if other people can take on responsibilities within a pay structure, we do that. We did it with the safety and health education personnel to Public Works, and we divided it into 4 different positions. ZEO went full-time, a blight officer, a safety officer, and money for hearing officers, so we put it to better use. In regard to this need for somebody to assist our seniors, our review, and we'll talk about it during the budget, we believe does require a new position because we are asking people, and we have been asking people who it's not included in their job description. So it's not one thing to say we're going to train other people to do new work. If they weren't hired to do that and it's not in their job description, you can't ask them to do that without redoing the job description and increasing their pay accordingly. And we've done that in the past. We're going to have some things coming up at the next meeting. We're going to do just that. But in this circumstance, in the review that our social service director has seen, we've been asking some social workers to do that. It's not in their job description. And because they're being drawn into doing something that isn't, they're not doing the job they were hired for. So that's not a good situation. So we are going to look at this new position in the budget. It has nothing to do with the fact we're trying to make a reason that the adult daycare was closed. It's because there's a need, and council said we want to show a commitment to our seniors and help them in a broader way so that the money helps more people. And I think that's going to be money well spent. But we are doing that analysis. I wouldn't suggest we create a new position unless it were warranted, and we're going to, in the long run, be helping people and get other people who are doing a job they shouldn't be back to doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we look at those things, and I appreciate it. I mean, I know people come up, it's their opinion, and I love to hear it, and it gives us an opportunity to say, you know what, we are listening and we do consider those things. So, that it? I think that's it for me.
Any questions for the manager? I think the only point to that, Chris, for 2 years, we've actually redone job descriptions across the entire town. So, I mean, there was
well, we've been updating them all, Mr. Mayor, to properly reflect what people are doing. And also, each year in the budget, we're looking to see, is every job necessary? You know, we do have changing, just as we heard from, the market's changing, workforces are changing, technology is changing. So, and we do look, you'll see in this year's budget, we're looking a lot towards technology. We streamlined a lot of things last year, so all departments came under IT. And we are doing training with our workers. What I don't like to do is, sometimes people do feel-good training or offer things or stipends that really, you don't really know what result you're getting. So I say we want common sense training. When we're doing safety training, I want to look at where our losses have been in workman's compensation, and mostly they're strains and sprains and slip and falls. Well, that's what I want to concentrate on. I don't want to have people sit through, and I had to sit through this, and so did the chief in the past, sort of irrelevant safety training that had nothing to do, didn't help us at all, but we said, well, we did safety training and we took supervisors and directors for 3 or 4 hours to do something that really was a waste of time. So we really focused down on what are we going to get the most bang for our buck for. So we are very interested in that kind of training, for training our employees to do better at their job, to train for people for succession, but also the kind of training I'm talking about for the health and safety of our workers too.
Moving on to item 10, the town attorney report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, 3 quick things. First, I'm happy to report it has been a remarkably smooth transition. The past 2 weeks, everyone I've encountered in town hall from the department heads on down have been exceedingly helpful trying to get me up to speed on the myriad legal issues that face the town, and I'm still trying to get up to speed on all of those issues. That leads me to point 2, Councilor Bosco. That's the first I had heard about the trash ordinance. There are a number of other legal projects and opinions that have been underway with the town attorney's office, but I promise I'll get you an answer on that. And then third, just briefly, there is one important decision I think is worth noting to you all here tonight that was issued by the Second Circuit Court of Appeals on January 10 after I was sworn in. And it's something that I've encountered already in the past 2 weeks 3 times, 3 different times I've been in federal court. It's been raised. It's a case involving the city of Hartford. It's City of Hartford versus Edwards. And it's important because it involves the indemnification statute, which requires municipalities to indemnify employees who are sued for their activities arising in the course of their official duties. Just briefly, to oversimplify it, there was a verdict against a Hartford police officer and in an unreasonable force case. The city all parties agreed that the city was not obligated to pay the injured party for punitive damages, but the city took the position that it didn't have to indemnify the officer and pay for the compensatory damages that were awarded to the party suing. The judge disagreed, Judge Garfinkel in Bridgeport, and he ruled that the city of Hartford had to pay, because otherwise, who would want to be a police officer if, when you get sued, your employer is not going to pay when they go and risk the case at trial. The city took an appeal, and the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in New York City on January 10 reversed Judge Garfinkel and directed that the city didn't have to pay because the finding against the officer was the equivalent of an ultra vires act. It was willful, wanton, malicious, and therefore that officer now has a judgment for $135,000 against that officer personally. It's not an understatement to say it's a game changer in terms of liability for municipal employees. And although that case dealt with Connecticut General Statute 7-465, which is specific to employees, there's a companion statute, 7-101A, that governs indemnification for volunteers and other elected and appointed officials. So it's an important decision that I'll make sure gets out to all of the appropriate department heads so that word can get out to employees and board members that this is of real concern, and I think will have long-lasting impact on how these cases are handled. The case is Hartford versus Edwards, and I can get copies if anyone wants one. And that's all I have for the town attorney report.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Sparza.
I just have a question on that case. Yeah. Historically, it was always viewed as when an officer worked outside the scope of what his training was, or he intentionally, like you said, a willful act. It's always been that way. Does this decision broaden that in any way? Because if you act outside the scope of your duty, what you were trained to do, you weren't supposed to be covered anyways, right?
But I'd never seen a municipality take that type of a position that they weren't going to pay an award after a jury trial unless there had been some egregious misconduct where the officer had either been criminally prosecuted or found to have violated department policy. To my knowledge, that was not the case here. It was a typical use of force case. And so, and I think what's more noteworthy is that Judge Garfinkel, who was reversed, had construed the statute to say that the officer was entitled to indemnification. So it wasn't as if he was acting off duty or something like that. I know what you're talking about, but those weren't the facts of this case, really.
And that's the first time a municipality has taken that position.
In a reported decision that I've seen, or in a case where the appellate court reversed a district court judge on that issue.
Well, I agree with you, right? If it becomes the norm, that's certainly not going to do much to encourage people to pursue careers where hardworking officers taking risk are at risk of losing their home, their pensions, and everything that goes with it. I think that's horrible.
It's a real game changer.
Well, and I think it's important because he is a federal litigator. And that's one of the attractions to the council because we have more and more litigation. But the Second Circuit Court of Appeals can only be reversed by the United States Supreme Court. That's unlikely to happen here. A lot of times we get a trial court decision, it's one judge, it goes to our appellate court, goes to our Supreme Court. This has gone to the Second Circuit, which how many states do they oversee? 3?
The entire entire Northeast.
So this is law. It's not going to change. And I think the important thing is to know it isn't going to be limited to police officers. It's going to affect all of you and me and every board and commission, every wetlands, planning. So if you're on a board or commission and, I'm just saying that you're told that, ultra-virus willful and wanton means you're not following the law, that you're doing something off the reservation. So that I think it's going to have a very big chilling effect, Mayor, not only for police but for others. Say, why should I volunteer to be on a board or commission? I'm doing my best, and maybe they didn't get good legal advice and they made a mistake. But a lot of cases have been reversed. We've had them in town where a commission member said or did something on the record which wasn't the law, and the judge said it was arbitrary and capricious, and okay, they reversed it, and the person got were able to put their pool up. But let me just say, in bigger cases or where there's damages, commercial or industrial, and someone sues us not just to reverse, but brings an action, I think, and I will leave it to our sage counsel, I think they're going to be bringing more cases individually against board members and commission members. And I think even since this case, and Jim can elaborate, that at some of these pretrials now, they're telling and asking police officers to contribute personally to the settlements, or they're not going to settle the cases and they're going to go to trial. This is a big, big issue.
Councilor Sakala. Excuse me.
I think I had relatively the same question. I guess what I was looking for was it because it was willful and malicious, or just in general that it wasn't, that there was no indemnification?
It is complicated. My understanding, and the decision just dropped, but I have a copy here. The basis for the opinion was that the plaintiff had asked for punitive damages and was awarded punitive damages. And everybody agreed the municipality didn't have to pay punitive damages. But because the same conduct that gave rise to the punitive damages gave rise to the compensatory damages, the Second Circuit reasoned, contrary to what Judge Garfinkel had held, that, well, it's all the same conduct, so therefore the municipality shouldn't have to pay for any of that. Now, query whether, if the plaintiff hadn't sought punitive damages, you might have had a different result. And what the Second Circuit said was, this statute is complicated. If this wasn't the result the legislature intended, the Connecticut legislature should amend the statute. So you may see an effort to try to amend the statute. But at the end of the day, it's like somebody threw a grenade into all of these settlement discussions that happen on a daily basis when municipal officials are sued. You could always construe the statute to mean that if there's a finding that you violated someone's civil rights, it's the functional equivalent that it's willful wanton. But we've never had it in black and white in an appellate ruling, contrary to a district court judge going the other way.
Right.
So that's what's dramatic about it.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a way you said you might put this, can we put this on our website? I mean, maybe not the full ruling, but.
I think I would disseminate it through department heads,
Yeah.
certainly to the
Yeah,
police
whatever,
chief, and maybe to the members of the council.
No, I figured it'd be a good way to get it out so people know it. Yep. Okay.
And I'll just say, I think we're fortunate that we have a legal staff, that we have, full-time. We had an assistant and a town attorney that we can ask. Some smaller municipalities, I had one call me today just in regard to a recent action our council took, and they said, well, we didn't even see that. We don't have somebody that's on staff that can look at it. So I think we're in a better position. If people are in doubt, they can ask and get a legal opinion, and they get guidance and they can follow it. But I think woe to some of the smaller communities where people are used to just kind of doing what they feel they want to do, and I'm going to call it as I see it, and that's wonderful until all of a sudden somebody sues and a judge says no. So.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Moving on to item 11, report any special committees. Councilor Muller, then Councilor Mangini, then Councilor Henler.
I have an update on the JFK Building Committee. The team is working on the contract drawings for the required state and local submissions. The team has been working to further refine the 11 phasing plans. The CD documents have been distributed to the independent code reviewer, Joe Perez, for his review. The estimators are working on the construction budget and set to reconcile on February 3rd. The team has confirmed a document review with the state for February 25th. Our next meeting is February 6th here in the Enfield room. The team will present to the Board of Ed on February 11th.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. 4th of July committee did meet, and they have a very lovely brochure now on the web, which everyone should take some time to look at. And they're going to have wonderful entertainment as usual. the parade, children's activities, the teen zone. But I do want to mention that they are having their dinner dance on March 7th, which obviously, funds will offset the cost of the actual event. So if everyone, would like to have a good time, attend the annual dinner dance. And there's also a flyer on that as well. The other report that I have is for Enfield Food Shelf. Just wanted to mention, for the year ending in 2019, our last year, there was a 3% increase over 2018. 340 families per week have been served, 300 students per week through Nantuck's Food Pantry, 5 to 10 emergency food per week through Enfield Social Services. 65 seniors are served monthly food box through a program, with 38% receiving home deliveries, and Arteola sends drivers to deliver these food items to them. And 185 students are served daily snacks. I think that's amazing. It just shows the need in our community, and that we are stepping up. Actually, the Enfield Food Shelf is stepping up, but all the people who do contribute, and I know there are many in our community that do contribute to help the Enfield Food Shelf service the needs of the guests, of our fellow neighbors. Social services, we did have a subcommittee meeting, and we talked about one thing I'm very happy about, the small repair jobs. That is continuing, and I'm really excited because I remember when it program first started, and it continues. It's a group of people who go out and help handicapped and elderly people fix doors, fix windows, small jobs, and it really is a value to the community. And we talked about the Commission on Aging. There was a whole, array of issues that we, touched upon. But the, like I said, the big one that I appreciated was the small repairs. And then, Carl, to your point, we did touch a little bit on the circuit breaker tax rebate program. So that's all I have for special reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hemler.
The Enfield Veterans Council, they're working on doing a memorial for Teddy right on Town Hall Green, so that's going to be exciting. They're working on the 2020 parades. They're looking for exciting ideas to energize the parades. And the American Legion Post 80 on Route 5, they're having their 100th anniversary this year, so that's pretty exciting. That's it.
Anyone else? Councilor Riley.
So Joint Facilities was 2 weeks ago, and we have another meeting this Thursday. Last meeting, we had a presentation for ideas on the Jablonski Center, and that is going to be refined, so we can hopefully have a presentation at a later date for the new ideas with that. They did bring up ideas about what to do with the annex, what to put there, what to take out of there. There was a lot of discussion in the room about what we thought about it. So I think they're going to go back to the drawing room and come up with some more ideas after they've taken more of our ideas from the committee under consideration. So we're looking forward to that.
Anyone else? Moving on to item 12, old business. Item A, 1, 2, 3 on the first page. There are no appointments. Moving up to the top of old business, page 4 through 6, there are none. Do I have a nomination, or do I have a motion to move number 7, Enfield Cultural Arts Commission off the table? Excuse me.
So moved.
By Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by Councilor Sakala. All those in favor of removing from the table, show of hands. Opposed, abstentions, 11 in favor, 0 against. Do I have a nomination, please? Councilor Sakala?
I'd like to nominate Emily McIntosh.
Nomination been made, seconded by Councilor Sakala, seconded by Deputy Mayor Suzak. Do I have a motion to close by Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by Councilor Sakala? All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed, abstentions? Sorry, I was going that way. Sorry about that.
Miss Cindy, it was your birthday, 8 o'clock.
So any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please. Apologize.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
Emily McIntosh.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sferrazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Emily McIntosh.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
Emily McIntosh.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Moving on to item 8, the Ethics Commission. Do I have a motion to remove from the table?
Yes.
By Counselor
Second.
Counselor Mangini, second by Counselor Riley. All those in favor of removing from the table by show of hands. Opposed, abstentions, 11 in favor, 0 against. Do I have a nomination, please?
I'd like to nominate Joel Cox.
Nomination to Joel Cox, seconded by Counselor Riley. Do I have a motion to close nominations? By Counselor Muller, seconded by Counselor Sferrazza. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? 11 in favor, 0 against. We have any discussion on the main motion?
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a comment in general. I actually support Joel. I will be voting in favor of him. I think he's going to be a great candidate. I'm just going to make a general comment that the Democrats have at least 2 other people who have put in their application for Ethics Commission, and at least 2 of those people we have been told that will not get the votes and the support of the majority party in order to serve on the Ethics Commission. So I just want to make a comment that if it is a D slot, the Democrats should be able to put in who we choose. And we have now been told a minimum of 2 times that the people that the Democrats are choosing for a Democrat spot will not be allowed to serve because they don't have the vote of the majority party.
Anyone else have any comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
Joel Cox.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sferrazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Present.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
Joel Cox.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Moving to item 9, Ethics Commission alternate. Do I have a motion to remove from the table? Counselor Muller.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Riley. All in favor of moving from the table by show of hands? 11 in favor, 0 against. Counselor Muller.
Jason Casey.
Motion by Jason Casey,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Riley. Do I have a motion to close nominations?
Not Williams?
So moved.
By Counselor Muller, seconded by Counselor Ungar. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? Opposed, abstentions, 11 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
Jason Casey.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sferrazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak. Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
Jason Casey.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Moving on, items 10 through 15 remain on the table. Do I have a motion for item 16, Loan Review Committee, to be moved by Counselor Muller, removed from the table?
Second.
Second by Counselor Riley. All those in favor of moving from the table by show of hands? 11 in favor, 0 against. Do I have a nomination? Counselor Muller.
Jennifer Casalone.
Motion made, seconded by Deputy Mayor Suzak. Motion to close nominations by Counselor Muller.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Riley. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? Abstentions? 11 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sferrazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Jennifer Castellone.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
Jen Castellone.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Page 3, old business 17 through 19, stay on the table. Appointments by the town manager, B 1 through 11, stay on the table. Move on to page 4, item B, town manager appointments, 12 through 17 remain on the table. Item C, under old business, appointments, P and Z commission appointed, council approved, there are none. Item D, discussion, school roofs, again, there stays on the table. Moving on to new business. Item 13, consent agenda, item A, there is none. Item B, Appointments, town council appointed. Item 1 remains, we'll move to old business. We don't have a nomination. Item 3, appointments, town manager appointed, council approved, there are none. Item D, appointments, P and Z commission appointed, council approved, there are none. Moving on to item 14, items for discussion. Item A, consent agenda, again, there is none. B, appointments by the town council, there is none. Item C, appointments by the town manager, council approved, there are none. Item D1, D2, E, F, G, H, I, and J have been moved to miscellaneous. Moving on to item 15, miscellaneous. Do I, on item D1, the Capital Region Council of Government Regional Planning Commission representative from Enfield, term of Mary Scott has expired. Do I have a nomination? Councilor Sparazza.
Mary Scott.
Mary Scott has the nomination by Councilor Muller. Do I have a motion to close nominations? Councilor Muller.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Riley. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? 11-0. 11-0. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
Right, we just have to vote on it.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Mary Scott.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. Counselor Sakala.
Mary Scott?
Counselor Hemler.
4.
It's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Item 2, Capital Region Council of Governments Regional Planning Commission Representative Alternate. The office of Linda Gray's expired. We have a nomination. The Planning and Zoning appointed Virginia Higley.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Just one question. Isn't this just to raise the hand? It's not a roll call vote, is it?
We moved to
on these?
miscellaneous, I roll call.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay,
I mean, we
okay.
can certainly, I don't know. Oh, consent agenda is the only time I do a show of hands.
Okay.
Just so it's official. Do I have a nomination?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, Virginia Higley.
Yep. Motion made by Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Sakala. Motion to close nominations. Councilor Muller.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Riley. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? 11 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
Virginia Higley.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Virginia Higley.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
Ginny Higley?
Counselor Hemler.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Under miscellaneous, item E, request to transfer of funds for community development of $12,000. Resolved in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made. From community development, land and building services of $12,000. From unallocated charges contingency of $12,000. Certified that the above stated funds are available on January 13, 2020 by John Wilcox. Approved by our town manager, Christopher Bromson, on 1/15/2020.
So moved.
Councilor Muller?
Second.
Councilor Mangini?
No, we approved the signing of the option, but this was the funding that had to follow up that John had to transfer so that we would have the available funds
This is
to
the
pay for it.
official money that we approved last meeting.
Yes.
Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Deputy Mayor Muller. I'm
4.
sorry.
Thank you.
Wow, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Counselor Muller. Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Moving on to item F under miscellaneous, the discussion resolution requests the transfer of funds for the Family Resource Center of $15,000 and $15,848. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made. To the Family Resource Center, from the Family Resource Center revenue of $15,848, and from the Family Resource Center professional development, travel, instructional supplies. Certified that the above certified funds are available as of January 21st, 2020 by John Wilcox, the Director of Finance, approved by Christopher Bromson, the Town Manager, on 1/15/2020.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Riley.
As the cover memo says, this is a transfer of funds within their budget. It's for 2 part-time parent educators to expand their ability to provide assessments and identify very young children and families who are at risk. This is a initiative of the Family Resource Center. It's a newer initiative, and again, it's working around infants and young children's mental health in partnership with local pediatricians.
Very apropos for what we saw early on.
It is.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
It's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Moving on to item G, discussion resolution to settle pending CHRO complaint. Whereas on October 4th, 2019, Terry Lynn Johnston filed a complaint against the town of Enfield with the Commission of Human Rights and Opportunities, CHRO, and whereas on December 11th, 2019, a mandatory mediation conference was held at the offices of the CHRO, and whereas a conciliation agreement was proposed at the mediation conference. Resolved, the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the town manager or his or her designee to sign on behalf of the town of Enfield with a predetermination conciliation agreement for CHRO case number 2050071 and HUD case number 01-20-3719-8, approved by the Office of the Town Attorney on January 14, 2020.
So moved.
Counselor Muller,
Second.
by Counselor Riley. I don't think-
I would just note, this is the issue that was discussed in executive session 2 weeks ago, and I think all the answers, all the questions were answered at that time to the
Anyone have any
council's
questions?
satisfaction.
Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
It's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Moving on to item H, discussion under miscellaneous, discussion resolution to settle the pending property tax appeal, Centro. Resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the town attorney, James Talberg, or his designee to settle the outstanding tax assessment appeal in the following action. JPMCC 2026-LDP, Centro Enfield LLC versus the town of Enfield. Docket number HHB-CV-17-603-8340S. The combined fair market value of the 6 parcels subject to this appeal shall be $22 million on the grand list of October 1, 2016, and $21 million on the grand list of October 1, 2017. Prepared by the Office of the Town Attorney on January 14, 2020.
So moved.
By Councilor
Second.
Muller, seconded by Councilor Mangini.
And again, this disputed matter was presented at the executive session 2 weeks ago by Assistant Town Attorney Mark Serrato, at which point I think the council's questions were answered.
Chris, do you want to give John a chance or no? Nothing here?
That's at the council's prerogative. I mean, this is a matter that's been pending. It was taken over by the successor owners. I would just commend Della and John
Right.
for their...
John, you mind coming up, if you don't mind? So I just think it's important for people to understand the preparation, the budgeting aspect of how your office handled this. If you wouldn't mind, just a few details.
Well, when we were preparing the budget for this year, pretty much we knew we had an issue with the valuation on the property, so we budgeted for it, allowed that any settlement requirements would not impact the budget this year.
Any questions? And in layman's terms, when we went through the budget last year, we were actually debating whether we would be more aggressive on our revenue projections, which would have actually lowered our tax mill increase. And to your credit, we had this very conversation in open session, and I challenged you on it. And to your credit, you guys held firm saying we needed to make sure we were prepared in case this came down. So you're looking ahead, government being proactive. Imagine when that happens, and it's great when it does happen. To your office deserves credit, because you actually were anticipating something that, again, maybe might not have occurred. But I think at the time we kind of knew. So to your credit, your office actually budgeted and reserved and held firm that you thought this was the right thing to do. And here we are 7, 8 months later in a much better financial position if we didn't take that conservative approach. So your office deserves, you and the rest of your office deserves credit for that.
Thank you.
Want to make sure you got your public kudos, because again, this was a very open discussion that we had at the budget. And we'll have it again as we move forward this year. You know, what should be our revenue projections as we go forward? You know, it's part of, everyone talks about expenses, but it also, there's a revenue aspect to it.
Hopefully, we'll be able to bump them up a little bit this year, so help out.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Under miscellaneous, item I, discussion resolution to settle the pending tax appeal Enfield Square. Resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the town attorney, James Talberg, and his designee to settle the outstanding tax assessment appeal in the following action. Enfield Square Realty, LLC versus the town of Enfield, docket number HHB-CV-17-6054126S. The combined fair market value of the 8 parcels subject to this appeal shall be $21,500,000 on a grand list of October 1, 2018, prepared by the town attorney on January 14, 2020.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Riley. And not to belabor, basically the same issue.
Yes, this was another contested tax appeal that was handled by the town attorney's office, and this was a result of a disputed matter, what we think is a fair resolution.
Again, well done by the finance office. Well done. Any other further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Moving on to item J, under miscellaneous, discussion resolution to settle pending property tax appeal Freshwater MZL. Resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the town attorney, James Talbert, or his designee, to settle the outstanding tax assessment appeal in the following action. Freshwater MZL-LLC versus, the town of Enfield, docket number HHB-CV-19-6053600S. The fair market value of the property known at 130 Elm Street to be $28,500,000, prepared by the Office of the Town Attorney on January 14, 2020.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Riley.
And finally, I'm happy to report this is the last of the big tax appeals that have been resolved favorably, we think, for the town.
Agree. Again, budgeted, planned for, which is what you ask of your finance office.
Yes.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Keiner. Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
There's 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Moving on to item 16, public communication. Would anyone like to speak for the council at this time? No one else like to speak for the council at this time? I declare public communications closed. Moving on to item 17, councilor communications. Anyone else have any communications at this time? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion. By Councilor Muller, seconded by Councilman Jean. All those in favor? 11 in favor, 0 against. Good night, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you.
I'm going home and get drunk now.